I'm Ron Strickland. This webcast is one of a series in which I'm providing some brief lectures and commentaries on topics from the courses I teach in literature and cultural studies. This particular installment is one of a group on John Milton's epic poem, Paradise Lost. In other webcasts, I've talked about Milton's family background, his education, and his involvement in the English Revolution, and I've discussed Book 1 of the poem. In this webcast, I'll be focusing on Book 2 of Paradise Lost. Book 2 focuses on the Grand Council of Demons in Hell in Pandemonium, the parliamentary hall constructed by the demons at Satan's direction in order to stage a debate about the best response, the best way forward, after having been defeated by the Almighty in the war in heaven and having been hurled headlong, flaming down to hell. The debate has the appearance of a democratic process, but as we will see, democratic debate can be manipulated by skillful rhetoricians. And Satan stage manages the process so that there will be an outcome determined in advance by himself. The debate opens with Moloch, a demon who proclaims himself impatient with diplomacy and rhetoric and eager to rejoin the battle, whatever might be the outcome. I'll read a few lines. "My sentence is for open war," he says. "Of wiles more unexpert I boast not. Them let those contrive who need, or when they need, not now. For while they sit contriving, shall the rest, millions that stand in arms and longing wait the signal to ascend, sit lingering here, heaven's fugitives, and for their dwelling place accept this dark, opprobrious den of shame, the prison of his tyranny, who reigns by our delay? No, let us rather choose armed with hell flames and fury all at once, o'er heaven's high towers to force resistless way, turning our tortures into horrid arms against the torturer. When, to meet the noise of his almighty engine, he shall hear infernal thunder, and for lightning see black fire and horror shot with equal rage among his angels, and his throne itself mixed with Tartarian sulphur and strange fire, his own invented torments. But perhaps the way seems difficult and steep to scale with upright wing against a higher foe. Let such bethink them if the sleepy drench of that forgetful lake benumb not still, that in our proper motion we ascend up to our native seat. Descent and fall to us is adverse. Who but felt of late when the fierce foe hung on our broken rear, insulting, and pursued us through the deep, with what compulsion and laborious flight we sunk thus low? The ascent is easy then, the event is feared. Should we again provoke our stronger, some worse way his wrath may find to our destruction. If there be in hell fear to be worse destroyed, what can be worse than to dwell here, driven out from bliss, condemned in this abhorred deep to utter woe, where pain of unextinguishable fire must exercise us without hope of end, the vassals of his anger, when the scourge inexorably and the torturing hour calls us to penance? More destroyed than thus, we should be quite abolished and expire." After Moloch finishes, a demon called Belial rises to speak. Belial is a diplomat and, in fact, a coward. He counsels caution and patience, hoping that the rage of the Almighty will abate with time passing. He begins, "I should be much for open war, O peers, as not behind in hate, if what was urged, main reason to persuade immediate war, did not dissuade me most, and seemed to cast ominous conjecture on the whole success. Or could we break our way by force, and at our heels all hell should rise with blackest insurrection, confound heaven's purest light, yet our great enemy, all incorruptible, would on his throne sit unpolluted, and the ethereal mold, incapable of stain, would soon expel her mischief, purge off the baser fire victorious. Thus, repulsed, our final hope is flat despair. We must exasperate the almighty victor to spend all his rage, and that must end us. That must be our cure, to be no more. Sad cure, for who would lose, though full of pain, this intellectual being? Those thoughts that wander through eternity, to perish rather, swallowed up and lost in the wide womb of uncreated night, devoid of sense and motion. And who knows, let this be good, whether our angry foe can give it, or will ever. How he can is doubtful. that he never will is sure. Will he, so wise, let loose at once his ire, belike through impotence or unaware, to give his enemies their wish, and end them in his anger, whom his anger saves to punish endless? Wherefore cease we then? Our supreme foe in time may much remit his anger, and perhaps thus far removed not mind us, not offending, satisfied with what is punished. Whence these raging fires will slacken, if his breast stir not their flames. Our purer essence then will overcome their noxious vapor, or inured not feel, or changed at length, and to the place confound in temper and in nature will receive familiar the fierce heat, and void of pain. This horror will grow mild, this darkness light. Besides, what hope the never-ending flight of future days may bring? What chance, what change worth waiting? Since our present lot appears for happy though but ill, for ill not worst, if we procure not ourselves more woe. Moloch argues for open war. Let's get it over with. Belial argues for diplomacy. Maybe we can find some way to compromise. Mammon argues for building riches in hell. And Mammon's argument is rather persuasive to the demons assembled there. Then Beelzebub offers the proposal that Satan has prompted him to offer. There's a new creation we've heard of. Let's subvert God's new creation, humankind. Maybe we can so annoy him that he will destroy his own creation. That would be good revenge. Maybe we can drive them into hell and occupy Eden ourselves. That would be good. Maybe we could persuade them to be of our party and turn God's creation against him. Turn them to our side. Now that would be the best revenge. Now Satan will speak. O progeny of heaven, imperial thrones, with reason hath deep silence and demure seized us, though undismayed. Long is the way and hard that out of hell leads up to light. Our prison strong, this huge convex of fire, outrageous to devour, immures us round ninefold, and gates of burning adamant barred over us prohibit all egress. These past, if any pass, the void profound of unessential night receives him next wide gaping, and with utter loss of being threatens him, plunged in that abortive gulf. If thence he escapes into whatever world or unknown region, what remains him less than unknown dangers and as hard escape? But I should ill become this throne, O peers, and this imperial sovereignty adorned with splendor, armed with power, if aught proposed and judged of public moment in the shape of difficulty or danger could deter me from attempting. Wherefore do I assume these royalties and not refuse to reign, refusing to accept as great a share of hazard as of honor, due alike to him who reigns, and so much to him due of hazard more, as he above the rest high honors sits. Go therefore, mighty powers, terror of heaven, though fallen, intend at home, while here shall be our home, what best may ease the present misery, and render hell more tolerable. If there be cure or charm to respite or deceive, or slack the pain of this ill mansion, intermit no watch against a wakeful foe, while I abroad through all the coasts of dark destruction seek deliverance for us all. This enterprise none shall partake with me. Thus saying, rose the monarch, and prevented all reply. Prudent, lest from his resolution raised others among the chief might offer now, certain to be refused, what erst they feared, and so refused might in opinion stand his rivals, winning cheap the high repute which he through hazard huge must earn. The passages that I marked in yellow in my PowerPoint are interesting to me because often there are moments that express key concepts of modernity and key aspects of individual humanity that are voiced in the mouths of these demons. So there's a kind of an irony that's repeated frequently in the poem where I think we find ourselves expecting to admire some statement about merit, about courage, bravery, loyalty, persistence, and yet it's all in the service of hate, opposition to God. So we'll be caught up again and again in that situation. In fact, in a landmark essay in a book entitled Surprised by Sin, published in 1967, the literary critic Stanley Fish made just this sort of argument about the situation of the reader in reading Paradise Lost. Fish argued that Milton deliberately sets traps for his readers. We are surprised to find ourselves approving of sinful attitudes and values. We are surprised to find ourselves in sympathy with the demons. Through manipulative rhetoric, the reader is repeatedly drawn into sympathy with the demons at the beginning of a passage or a sequence of lines, only to be brought up short by the realization that what we are admiring or sympathizing with is something counter to God's will and our spiritual well-being. So Satan embarks upon his quest, his evil quest, to subvert God's will, to bring about the destruction of God's new creation, humankind. But first, he has to leave hell, and at the gates of hell, he encounters some strange creatures. And Milton here sets up an allegorical structure that invokes both Greek mythology and the biblical Christian Holy Trinity. You may have noticed that Milton's adding something to the biblical text here, quite a few things. He's imagining allegorically a relationship between sin and death and Satan and evil and God. And he imagines this relationship, this allegorical relationship, both by invoking a pattern that he finds in classical mythology. Does anyone know the relationship of Zeus to Athena among the Greek gods? Athena is Zeus's daughter. In fact, she springs full-blown from his head. She's born of his imagination. Sin, like Athena, is sprung from Satan's imagination, from his mind, from his brain. He at first finds her kind of repulsive, as all the angels do, but the rebellious angels begin to find her actually kind of attractive after a little bit. And Satan has dalliance with her in private. They have sex. He goes and fights his battle and kind of seems to have forgotten about her. Now he meets her again, and she has had his child. His child is called Death. An allegorical trinity, rather than God the Father, God the Holy Spirit, and God the Son, we have Satan, sin, and death as a demonic trinity. Now, at the end of this book, Satan will encounter chaos, and chaos will first oppose him, and Satan will again prevail and be able to move past. That's where we'll end today. And for Thursday, please go ahead and read Book 4. Book 4 is where the first real action takes place. Satan will surveil the Garden of Eden. He will see Adam and Eve. We will be introduced to Adam and Eve. And we won't read it in this class, but if we were going to go on in Paradise Lost, we would go through several books like this until we would arrive at Book 9, where the real fall happens. With that, I'll conclude this webcast. But, as always, if you have questions or comments, please don't hesitate to send me an email.